go. That's better. I think that's better.
Woo!
Small, minor technical glitch. We had to try to fix the AC today. But anyways, I'm Dan Adelko.
And I'm Courtney Castle.
And welcome to Live at the Hive, episode 46.
Yep. Creeping up to the,
The big 5-0.
Yep.
Actually, I'm going to turn 46 this year. There you go.
Well, there you
Bam.
go.
How about that?
But yeah, next in a few short weeks, we'll round up on our anniversary, 1 year of Live at the Hive. So that's very exciting. We're thrilled with that consistency.
Very proud of ourselves. Very proud of ourselves.
We're going to start out today before we get into what's new and what's working with a special announcement for you guys. We've been teasing it. We've been mentioning that there are some things coming your way. And now we're finally ready to tell you all that we are celebrating this month.
Yes, we are. We're celebrating, 15 years ago. That would be our 15th anniversary. We're terrible at this. We're absolutely terrible. Woo! There are bees everywhere. Bees. Woo! There we go. So we came up with this idea like very haphazardly. This was not very well planned. The bag is right over the camera. No, it just quickly did. There's bees. You can't even hardly see them.
But yeah, you may notice next week some of these bees showing up around Waterloo region, and we're celebrating our 15-year anniversary here at Honey Pot with some giveaways.
I don't know anything. We're placing these strategically around the city. Is that the idea?
It's just we're doing a little bit of celebration, spreading the love as KW has supported, us and our growth over there, and we, in turn have been very involved in the community and the schools and all that great stuff in the region. So yeah, we just wanted to say thank you with a month of giveaways. So there are some grand prizes that we will be doing live draws for right here on Live at the Hive.
That's right. And Courtney's going to have a bee perched on her shoulder for the entirety of the live stream.
Like a little parrot.
There you go.
And we'll make April, come in here for her bee drop.
Yeah, so April was our bee dropper.
Hello.
We planned this so poorly that we didn't even have a formal bee dropper, but we do now.
You do.
So now you can actually join in. Now we're gonna have to do like the whole setup. We do this before you just scooch over this way.
I'm gonna scooch in.
There we go.
But yes. So the live draws, there's kind of two elements you can win with our giveaways for the next month. We'll be doing some flash prizes throughout the week. So please give us a follow on Facebook and you will see some Amazon gift card giveaways, some Honey Pot Bee swag that you can win. We'll also be doing grand prize draws right here on Live at the Hive for some pretty good prizes. A social media audit of your social media channels with a content calendar. You can also win a website review with recommendations.
That's right.
Or in our lingo, what we would call like a CRO audit. So conversion rate optimization, whether you have an e-commerce store or information website.
Yep.
And then the final grand prize is a 45-second video, whether you would like it to be animated or live action. You'll work with us, the Honey Pot team, and you'll get yourself a video. So
Great.
that's for anyone who signs up to our live notification list. So if you would like to get live updates of when we go live with Live at the Hive, and then also episode recaps of our best tips and information, you can sign up. We'll drop the link in our comments right now, and anyone who subscribes over the next month will be entered automatically to win.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
You'll know you're there when you see. There's the landing page. And then if you subscribe, you're going to get, it's my Chrome. There we go. So simple subscription, you'll be notified when we go live. You get a free infographic. We send out marketing tips as well. So hopefully providing you with some value as well as getting you entered into the contest. And by the way, Drew Ripley, the balloon master of Waterloo region, I have no idea how he makes these things, but he does make them.
They are
and they're pretty amazing.
Thanks, Drew.
So thank you, Drew. We also have a hive back at the office that you'll see on our social media next week. It's full of bees right now.
An actual balloon hive.
Yes, a balloon hive. All things balloons when it's Drew. So
Pretty awesome.
That's right. That's right. And also on the landing page, just as a note, if you've missed any of the episodes, we featured some of our top episodes and then a link to the full library. So you can always jump back there to get access to more info and resources. And we've also set up our recurring Facebook event that you can join into for kind of live updates and stay up to date and follow us and keep in touch. And also, of course, on Periscope and on YouTube.
For sure.
Bam.
Yeah.
Bam. All right, so let's dive in, since we should probably do that. What are we starting with today?
So, first and foremost, today we're just looking at some news that was coming out. A lot of people are talking about the latest Amazon or the Alexa suite of products to come out. It's a very long list that people are discussing. Some poking jokes at some of the items on the list, like a microwave and things like that, while others are a little more practical. But yeah, it's a lot of talk right now about it, and just in terms of voice search and things like that. But yeah, some other products on the list. I believe there was an Echo for your car.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting.
Curiously.
Yeah, there's also Amazon for Business, which I don't know if it's in this list. So there's the Echo for your car. So this, really from a marketer's perspective, I think it underscores the importance of getting your assistant strategy, if you will, put together and implemented, because you do need to do special things to get your products into Alexa and on the Echo devices. But as you can see, Amazon's kind of going full force here.
Yeah.
So Echo for your car. What else we got?
Pretty cool.
The Echo Sub.
Yeah, and really it's
a clock as well.
Yeah, the clock was a curious one.
Yeah,
I wasn't,
interesting.
That one was interesting. I think that's got a lot of people's eye. But yeah, from a marketing standpoint, obviously search and voice search specifically is, and voice shopping as well. There's a lot of eyes on that right now. And, this is the complementary side that, like, as Amazon brings out more products and drives the usage of it, the importance of us as marketers paying attention to it becomes more and more. So obviously an indicator that voice search is going nowhere. So looking into it sooner than later and adopting it now is, as opposed to this time next year, it's always going to be a good idea.
Yeah, for sure. So for example, if you've got your site or your news or information site or products, so one, obviously Amazon, the ability to purchase on Amazon is going to become more and more important. We've got another follow-up story on that a little bit later too. If you've got an app that's useful, you can register with Alexa, and then your app can come up and be installed by Amazon users. So for example, I have the Score Sports, I get local weather, I can get local news. So those kinds of, so again, more distribution, right? More ways to get stuff out there. Very important.
Pretty cool. Yeah, they were joking it was everything but the kitchen sink. The microwave at least.
Yeah, I think, the main point that everyone's riding on is the microwave. No one's really quite sure why that's in the mix, but...
Yeah, the microwave is definitely different.
I guess props to them for testing. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a bit of snare. Yeah, it's a cheap dystopia, that's for sure. And then an updated Echo Plus. So I have an Echo Plus. So now I don't have the coolest Echo Plus anymore.
Oh my gosh.
But I've got a mix. You get into this problem where you have some Nest stuff and then you have some Alexa stuff. So Nest and Google versus Amazon and now Ring with all their security stuff. But I think the integrations are going to continue to happen as well across all of these different platforms.
There's a clock.
It's a clock. Because you want a smart connected clock.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, it's a little weird. Just have everything. Okay,
it's
sure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The Echo Smart plug, but those are one note. If you're connecting a smart home, and this is totally off topic, in a sense, but I think the protocol is called Zigbee, and you can actually go buy Zigbee plugs at a fraction of Amazon and Google costs as well. So Zigbee, keep your eye out for that. Katie is watching.
Tech shopping tip from Dan.
Hi, Katie.
Tech shopping tip, which I apparently am very good at. The Echo Link and Link amp, look at it go. Updates to them, more updates,
There's quite a list there.
It just keeps going and going. But again, you know what? It's probably a good segue into the other Amazon article we have. Let me just pull that up.
Lots of attention on Amazon right now, and we'll get into the breakdown of our the state of digital advertising in 2018, the report that we were looking at. But from that report, also kind of across the board, there's a lot of talk of Amazon coming up as an ad platform itself, as opposed to just e-commerce, but also the ad spend that people are using on it. It's now coming to it's now number 3 behind Facebook and Google in terms of platform ad spend.
Yeah, crazy.
And I think in the report we'll go into a little later, in the state of digital advertising, a lot of companies have identified it as a huge opportunity for them, especially in terms of where they're going to be investing that ad spend coming up in next year.
Yeah, so you can see here, pretty wild projection. They had projected 2.89 billion in Amazon ad spend, and projecting now 4.61 billion. So, you know, this is actually one of the things that this is about is this notion of disruption in startups. Netflix is doing the very same thing where, and Bezos has mastered the art of moving very quickly and not being profitable for well, never, ever turning a profit.
Yeah.
But that the notion is that in order to get that saturation in the market, you have got to invest until you can literally crush everybody else through your disruption. And you can actually see it through, you know, Sears and Kmart, Zellers, like the titans, the traditional retailing titans are dying very quickly. And even Walmart is working really hard to try to catch up.
Yeah.
But Amazon is really far ahead in a lot of these areas.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, and the sleeping giant. So for Amazon to show something like 2.89 to 4.61 billion in profit from a first projection to their actual projection is proving that disruptive strategy is working, and it takes a long time, right? But it is really interesting to see that Oath and Microsoft got busted up a little bit. So the Oath network was what AOL was. So this is where you go into these major sites. And I can't say that I'm upset about that in a sense. Those other networks from an advertising perspective were very challenging. It was very traditional digital marketing. You know, you send in your PEO, your purchase order, you purchase $500,000 in advertising and see what happens.
Yeah, which
right?
is very much the old method.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not the performance tuning style that Google and Facebook have popularized, which is interesting because Yahoo actually had the first PPC platform in Overture before Google copied it.
Yeah, it's funny that the self-serve platform is like, that's the preferred method now, is that people have that control, and yet, you know, that has become, and now they're kind of almost going in the opposite direction where, like with the new Google rollout, where it's like, okay, you have your self-serve platform, but now here's AI to help you as you try and control it yourself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure.
there's two sides to that, but
Yeah. The other really interesting stat, and this kind of dovetails with everything else, is really the again, the continued and accelerated rise of mobile. Not going anywhere.
Nope.
So mobile first in your advertising, mobile first on your e-commerce, and literally everywhere. As you can see here, their Amazon mobile projections, 1.61, a 242% increase.
Wow.
Right?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a big,
Yeah. And then the last kind of crazy thing is that Google and Facebook own a combined 57.7% of all digital
Wow.
platform advertising purchases.
Impressive.
Yeah. So I wonder what that 2% would actually represent in dollars, their fall from 59.1 to 57.7. I bet you it's a fortune.
Probably, yeah.
Probably,
More
yeah.
than likely, if we're looking in the number of billions in terms of ad spend on these platforms. So, yeah, definitely a lot. But yeah, that's right in line with some of the other stats that have come up on this digital advertising report as well. Just in terms of social spending surpassing display in terms of the number one type of ad spend out there right now.
Yep.
So not really surprising at all. And I believe of that chunk, no surprise that Facebook has the predominant share. I believe it's like 53% or so,
I think I was reading that.
with Instagram and Twitter coming in at like 16% or so of the spend each.
So for some reason, my mobile won't show me the entire question and unfold it, but David just made a comment. I don't think the ad network M&A is over, even if Amazon takes third spot. Oath, Microsoft, etc. will ... and I can't extend.
Continue to consolidate into position 4 and hopefully drive down the prices.
Yeah, agreed. And I can also see Oath and Microsoft. Like Microsoft has always had a pretty limited self-serve capability. They now have their audience network, so they're expanding it. I think what's going to happen is these companies in the network kind of game are going to be forced to revise, just given that Google and Facebook have grown so rapidly against them that they're going to start to see it hurt. So I agree. I think that there's definitely, we want to keep it. You don't want a duopoly between Google and Facebook.
No, and that's I think that's a bit of the just somewhat of the concern in terms of the trends, because there's also some trends that they've named in this report as well. One of them being that the leading factor people believe in 2019 that will dictate ad spend is the growth of these large companies, Google, Facebook, and Microsoft being what they're speaking of, Amazon as well in that mix. But, you know, as we've seen in this past year in terms of borrowed media, like a Facebook page, that can be at once a great thing for advertisers as it pushes more opportunity for us. But, you know, keeping in mind that that is, you know, we do not control the outcome of Facebook or Google or any of these platforms.
No.
So
you definitely don't want the duopoly, because they control the costs right now, and you know, one, it's a black box. Yes, it's an auction, but you know, they're taking over 50 cents of every dollar on ad spend is going right to the platform, which, okay, fine, fair and good. But when there's a lack of competition, it really pigeonholes what advertisers can do and where they can go and how they can negotiate, right?
Yeah, but I would definitely love to see that CPC get driven down in the competition.
Yeah.
Like, we can even see as advertisers who use you know, social advertising and all advertising daily, like we can even see the average cost per clicks and things like that on the platforms rising, even compared to last year, just because of the popularity. Obviously, the more people buying the advertising, the more you compete for those clicks. So definitely, you know, like we said, there's good things and bad things about it. More ad formats and acceptance of people using it, but more competition. So
Okay, cool. We've got another TechCrunch story, an Instagram update again.
Yeah, Instagram has alluded to a couple items that they're testing and kind of rolling out right now. Some of them they're playing a little closer to the vest than others, but a lot of people are already speaking about it. One that's caused a bit of a stir is they're testing a tool apparently that divides hashtags and captions, for example. So when you set up your post on Instagram, where you would in the functionality where you would select like who to tag and whatnot, they would remove the hashtags from the caption and just have it right there. So it would be more, you know, like a meta information as opposed to actually being up front. Because we all know people, you know, don't like having a million hashtags there. It seems spammy, but you know, to a certain extent, you do need hashtags for visibility and strategy.
Oh yeah, absolutely do. I mean, and they only recently you're able to follow certain hashtags as well as a separate search. I think if they even remotely change how hashtag works, Instagram users are going to be screaming. Yes, they're going to be very mad about that.
Although most people push their hashtags down right now as is.
With
Most
dots,
people either use the dots, icon, like emojis, or the comment method.
Right.
Yep.
So it's probably really just them looking at the behavior of how people are using it, trying to make it a bit better for them. But yeah, I'm curious to see how that rollout is going to happen.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, and this just as a hashtag strategy, we've talked about this before, if you're integrating a hashtag strategy, a couple of things. One, it's fine to have your own branded hashtag, but don't expect that it's going to go necessarily viral on you. Find the hashtags that have a moderate level of popularity. So if you do like Insta Life, for example, there's millions and millions of posts tagged that way. So you're going to get lost very quickly. If you can find ones that even have in the hundreds to the thousands, people that follow those hashtags will be more likely to see your content. So it's kind of like targeting. It's used as a bit of a targeting tool, and it really does work. You know, unless you've got, you know, unless you're Joe Rogan and you have like 9 million followers, or you know, any one of the Kardashians, they're fine. But if you're looking to increase your visibility and engage an audience, really think about those hashtags. And how you use them, as opposed to just puking them out with the dots below your.
For sure, and to some element of strategy, like Dan said, some like different hashtags are for different purposes. Like we tend to use four different types of hashtags, like our branded hashtags, which, like Dan said, we like to use one, for example, Hive Life. We don't really expect other people to actually use that hashtag, but if you looked at the hashtag itself, you'd see a lovely curated collection of our content. So that's really more the intent of that with your branded ones. Like industry ones, like you said, for high frequency and relevancy. Trending ones if you're discussing a trending topic. And then also ones like interest ones to your audience specifically. So us, for example, would be hustle hard, as an example, is a common one that marketers use. So a variety, really. You know, your hashtags aren't just meant for visibility. There's other strategies too.
Oh, I just got a text message from my friend Christopher Ian Bennett. I don't know if he checked out a previous live. He said I look like a young Tony Stark in that blazer. I'm not wearing a blazer today, but I like it. I don't care that he texted me that instead of commenting on it, but I like that reference because that means I'm Iron Man and I'm a billionaire.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
Good stuff.
Yeah,
Good
Iron
stuff.
Man's pretty cool. So
I'd say. What's the other thing? Geofencing your posts.
For sure. Yeah, that's another thing that they've alluded to, another test that they're coming out with in terms of features. But the one I'm actually most excited about is a lot of focus is on stories right now in terms of engagement.
Right.
They have about double the engagement rate of a newsfeed post, and they're adding some other different sticker elements. So they're adding a quiz one. Is one I've heard about right now. And it's not like the polling feature, it's like an actual, like you'd ask a question and then they pick A, B, or C and then they're shown the answer right there and then. So just expect to see some more engagement stickers and different varieties coming out. So.
And I know if you're in the B2B space or if you're in a very serious business, it may seem childish to think about stickers and stories and hashtags on Instagram. But keep in mind, this is a massive, massive platform.
Huge.
The fact that it generates billions of dollars a year in revenue should make it so. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about this when we get to the state of digital marketing. If you're an accountant, for example, do not dismiss Instagram as being something that the kids are using because it is a massive platform, and use it as an opportunity to use some of these features, the polling and the stickers, and there's some really great ones that Instagram has. You know, the current temperature, all sorts of different things. There's geo-fenced stickers, so when you do like
location tagging.
your location tagging and all that. So really, I think one of the things, because as we talk about this, I know that people in B2B, well, we have a very serious product, but at the end of the day, if you can highlight the people behind your company and the things that you're doing, these are really powerful ways to kind of expand the depth of your brand and the personalization of it.
For sure, yeah, and each social channel should have a different strategy as well. Just because if you are a B2B company and maybe LinkedIn is your poster child social media channel for obvious reasons, you could still have a strong Instagram channel that helps, for example, with your company culture and with staff acquisition, so that people can sense perhaps you're a B2B tech company and you want young talent coming into your company. They're going to look on Instagram for you, even though you are B2B, and perhaps that's the strategy, is that you strengthen company culture and your applicants. So
one of the things I hear often when we speak to people applying to Honeypot is the first thing that they went to that piqued their interest was our Instagram profile, because pretty much exclusively what we do there are community events, behind the scenes. When we do potlucks or any other event or throwing axes,
for sure.
And that's our company culture side, and it's literally the first thing that almost all people say is that that's where they're going.
I like that it gives you that opportunity for authenticity too. Like people get social media, they get it, they get there's people behind it, and they want to actually see. Especially for us as marketers, obviously it's a skill and like a person driven service, so we want people to see who we actually are. It gives them a great view. But same thing for your company, right? Give people a view into your behind the scenes and the personality of who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. The other cool thing, for example, if you're in the B2B space, and regardless of what you're doing, polling across Facebook and Instagram is a very powerful way to gain somebody's attention, because one, it has a different format. They're very visual. If you can think of, for example, one of the big things in B2B is surveying, right? So obviously surveying your leads, trying to learn more about them. Well, if you transmute that strategy onto social and accept the fact that everybody's on Facebook, B2B, and that your advertising strategy and your social strategy should tie in as well as to LinkedIn and other areas, don't dismiss these things as being cute or whatever.
Right.
They are fun, they're visual, they're interactive, and if you embrace that and make it a part of your strategy, you're going to be winning. A few great companies that come to mind that use them very actively locally are Smile.io and Vidyard. Very active, and really doing a great job on showing people their company and their culture and everything else.
For sure, yeah, and I think it naturally, comes from the variety of their strategy. They're not trying to do the same thing on every single channel. They're not duplicating their content either. You know, and to Dan's point, like, yeah, you can have a different purpose. You could survey people on Facebook, whether it's about a particular challenge that your audience might have, or maybe it's, you know, you're gaining some, you know, some information about a new product that you guys are launching and how to best launch it. It could be used for that as well. So not always sales and brand building. There's lots of different benefits for social.
Yep, totally. All right, so moving right along, next up is the state of, if I can find it now. There it is. The State of Digital Advertising 2018 by Marin Software.
So this is a pretty popular digital advertising report. They go through, and it's a survey of specifically B2C clients in the retail space across, you know, from automotive to finance. They do a whole spectrum. It's a very trusted report that comes out, and it basically breaks down spend, where people were spending their money in 2018 compared to 2017 as well as trends for 2019 in terms of where people are anticipating they're going to go. So some really great stats, especially as we move into fourth quarter here and start looking at 2019, if you can believe it.
It's coming up fast.
Yeah, so some of the big key findings out of this, which may seem obvious or not, is that social advertising is winning over Google, display, YouTube, those kinds of, although I would argue that YouTube is a social network just of a different form, so you could kind of make that case. But that's a big jump from the year before. So social's definitely rising.
Yeah, it's a 10% increase now that they have on them in terms of where the social spend is landing. And then also 90% of companies surveyed said that they were spending on social media. So not only has it eclipsed display, but it's also now the #1 paid platform for spend. So I don't think anyone in the industry would be surprised to hear that.
No.
You know, like Facebook almost sold out of inventory last year, almost did. So like I'm not really surprised that that's happened at all. But yeah, very interesting in terms of, like we already alluded to, with competition and cost per click and the actual performance effect that has on your campaigns. Especially for those of us who've been advertising on Facebook and social forever.
For a long time.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one of the big things that comes out of this is that more and more advertisers feel they don't have the expertise to deliver successful campaigns. Come talk to us. And also when it comes to ROI attribution, which Facebook and Google have both been making great strides in updating to help increase the visibility and attribution, so it's not just coming from social, you're not quite sure where. But that also has to do a lot with your setup and making sure that you're properly tagging and tracking everything that's happening there.
For sure, yeah. They said that companies named their #1 challenge was reporting across multiple channels. So when you have multiple social networks and then other advertising platforms, how do you A, accurately report across all channels, and B, how do you compare? Like, how does a social Facebook lead gen campaign compare to, you know, a Google ad campaign? Is it apples to oranges, or are there actual benchmarks we could use? Those are really some of the questions that came up out of this. And interestingly enough, in our What's New, apparently Hootsuite is introducing, kind of trying to solve this issue, and has made a big announcement that they're introducing the ability to manage Google ads, search ads via Hootsuite, so giving you more of a holistic view for your social media advertising management as they're billing it right now.
And the other thing to keep in mind is that Marin Software is a platform that helps for cross-channel attribution.
Yes.
So it's a great report, but that's always been an issue. But there's this kind of cool breakdown here. You can see, I don't know if we to zoom it in a little bit more. But you can see there that paid social, then YouTube, Google Display, paid search, SEM, mobile in-app, then SMS, MMS, and then other display, which is kind of, other display would be third-party networks,
for sure,
which are getting hit a little bit hard.
Yeah, and one of the most interesting insights out of the report as we went through it that I found was like curious was, even though there's a rise in mobile in terms of traffic and adoption and everything like that, the #1 decrease in ad spend was actually SMS marketing and advertising, so text message marketing, basically. So that was kind of more of an indicator to me that marketers haven't found out how to do it like successfully yet without being extremely intrusive. I think we've all gotten that random text message that comes to you and you just immediately reply stop.
Yeah,
probably.
That's me,
Yeah, no, for sure.
But yeah, I just thought that was curious. You would think that with a platform on, you know, like mobile becoming so dominant that you would have a rise in SMS, but
Decrease.
I think if anything, it's an opportunity for someone to try and do it better, really.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the other thing about this too is there should be a distinction in here between messenger bots, like messenger advertising, because that is a thing now on Facebook. So it'd be interesting to see what, I mean, paid social probably lumps all of those things together.
Yeah, I assume Messenger is just one of
Lumped
the
into there,
formats
yeah.
of under social, under Facebook.
Yeah, and SMS marketing is a challenge. It's tough because it can be very intrusive. Typically what we do find is on remarketing and abandoned carts, it's very effective.
Or loyalty programs.
Loyalty programs when you've established the relationship, but as a first touch, it's very intrusive,
no one
and
likes it.
you'll get, don't do it.
No, don't do it.
Don't do it. But again, I think the last point on this before we move on, and we'll post, I think we posted the link, or we will post the link to the Marin report, so it's convenient to get to, is just that omni-channel, like continue to think omni-channel, like if paid social is going to be your number one, that's totally fine, but I wouldn't dismiss something like a paid search traffic campaign. And in that also branded campaigns. It just, it's where you want to align your focus and where you're seeing the most effective, but always reserve a portion of your budget and your effort across a lot of these channels. Because display in the right context can be extremely powerful, done properly.
For sure, yeah. And to your point, just because social is rising, it doesn't mean the others are falling or anything like that. It's just that because of the adoption, I think it took a little more convincing maybe to get people onto social advertising. We've discussed it in office before that it's like 5 years ago it was convincing people to do it, and now people come to us asking for it. So it's very much an acceptance into kind of into your marketing fold. And I think that's more the reflection of this. I'm sure that the rate of people using Google Ads is still increasing. It's not like it's decreasing.
I think that's actually a really good point, is that if you combine all digital advertising dollars, that is growing substantially.
Yeah.
So these are all growing concerns, it's just how fast they're growing. The other thing I think too is between paid social and say YouTube, Google Display, and paid search, you have one that's got a high level of maturity and one that's got a low level of maturity. So social is able to add brand new things because they have a lot of new areas to monetize. So it's going to grow more quickly than paid search and what Google is doing. But again, they're monstrous, like as a whole.
For sure, yeah. And very high level, we're looking at like obviously to group, like Dan said with the messenger, like that's one section underneath the Facebook, underneath social. So like very high level report we're looking at does get deeper in the report itself, and it does actually break that down by specific channel and things like that. But yeah, it also gives you some great trends as well if you're looking for ideas for your plan for 2019. One stat in particular, which I've seen in a couple places, predicts that by 2020, 50% of all search will be voice.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just a year and a bit away, though it sounds like it's in the future.
Well,
It's coming close.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is that when you own the hardware platforms and the software platforms, you can kind of dictate a lot of how people use it, right? So, for example, on Android devices, like OK Google is built right in, and it really encourages you to use that voice search. So they can push us in the directions they want you to go. And
For sure.
And I use Hey Siri all the time.
I use Google all the time.
But again, and for things like driving and areas like that. So, Google wants to increase, and this may seem weird, but if voice search can be fully implemented and in car, then you think about the amount of time that normal human beings spend in a car every day, they're going to increase the amount of usage that they're going to get on their platforms.
Yeah,
For sure.
Right?
Smart.
So yeah, there's definitely a lot under the waterline there. So, okay, let's move into, it's 4:57. We're at 35 minutes, so not bad. But there's a lot of stuff happening.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
there
what's
is
new.
lots.
And we had the bee drop, so that's another thing
It's
too.
important.
Yep, it's very important. How long will these bees last?
Hopefully.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We have no idea.
We'll leave them up there and see if they wither.
My kids stopped by the office today because it's Cohen's 6th birthday today, and we had a little pizza party for them and video games, and they were loving it. Mila ripped hers apart by the time she got to the car, by the way.
Oh.
Sorry.
Drew.
Yeah, so, yeah.
She's 3.
She loved it, though.
She loved it.
And then she handed it back to me and said, "Fix it." And I'm like, "Sorry, bud.
That's Drew's
It's not what
job.
I do.
It's not. I don't know how
That's
these things
true.
work." Anyhow, so let's talk a little bit about 4 elements. So social media, from the Marin Report, the rise of it. Maybe focus on. We've done quite a bit of lead gen using social. And we're going to give you some tips on how to create a successful lead gen campaign on social channels.
For sure, yeah. So we get asked about social advertising a lot, as we already said, and we've been doing it for many, many years. So we've seen the development of it kind of from, what it used to be 10 years ago to what it is now in a much more competitive environment with many more formats and targeting capabilities.
Yeah.
But basically, we always break it down to 4 main components when you're looking at a successful lead gen campaign. And specifically, we're talking about social media advertising today. But first and foremost, when you're looking at the elements, is the creative and copy that you're using to actually grab people's attention in their newsfeed or whichever placement you might be considering. Excuse me. But yeah, we have a couple do's and don'ts for you guys. We have an entire team that creates, that puts thought and time and strategy into developing our creative, whether it's a text ad or a display ad. But you can kind of break it down into these 4 do's and don'ts we have here. First and foremost, and it's probably becoming more and more popular or more and more important of a factor, is the relevancy of your ad.
Yeah.
So do not try to trick your audience to click on your ad and lead them somewhere that's completely irrelevant.
No.
Just for the sake of trying to get that click through. For one, you will get a bad relevancy score, and you will it'll hinder your performance on Facebook. But also, what is good is that click. If the person gets to the page, it's not what they expected, and then they leave.
Right.
And you have a bounce
It's a
rate of like
waste.
98%.
Yeah. The other thing that could be led down to is not necessarily doing it intentionally, but it's what we call message match. And pardon me, you do find that it's easy to get derailed if you're trying to talk about your product or your service, and you have so many things you want to say that your messages don't actually match all the way through.
Right.
So keep it simple and make sure that your call to action, what you're intending to offer, is clear to the user, and that you deliver on it fairly quickly. So message match as well.
For sure, and that's one of our do's, is do include a clear and accurate CTA,
Yes.
your call to
Clear,
action.
Yeah, simple,
Yeah,
easy to follow.
Yeah, and whether it's like, okay, you included it, but what is it actually as well? Like, is it to learn more? Is it to buy now? Facebook specifically has added a lot more options in terms of your call to action, what it can be. But really think about, what is that journey and what kind of friction you can remove. So sometimes if you have buy now right out the gate, that deters people. So do try to lead them and qualify them, because keep in mind they may not know who you are.
Right.
Because this is a lead gen campaign. So
Exactly.
your prospects will be warm and cold, hot, depending
All
on who
over.
you're targeting. But do keep that in mind, is that the whole point is qualifying them at certain points.
Yeah.
Yep. The other thing, just as a note here, everything on social is about building your target audience for delivery, because you get these powerful tools to get to the right audience. Your Facebook pixel, for example, which will also include Instagram data as well. Keep refining that Facebook pixel. Look at your Facebook analytics. If you don't go and visit, there's inside of Facebook Business Manager, there is a Facebook Analytics tab that will give you your pixel results and show you what demographics you are getting to. But constantly work that Facebook, your audiences, your lookalikes, and your targets. A really great tool is Espresso to create a lot of split tests. We've run many multivariate tests across a ton of different target categories and profiles of individuals to find the right one, then create audiences out of those.
Yeah.
So that's a good one for sure.
For sure, yeah, and especially if you have a smaller team and you're looking at scalability as you're investing more and more in social media advertising, third-party tools like Espresso really help with that too. So that that's what the tool is made for efficiency and to help you with some automation and things like that. So definitely, if you're looking at this level, if you've already kind of tested it, it's successful, and now you're looking at scaling, look into those kinds of platforms for sure.
Yep.
But yeah, last and not least, probably the most important and something I really hammer on with people is that when you create ads for social media, try to create them natural. Like, think of the platform you're using, the format that you are using. If it is a Instagram story ad placement, do not make it like you would like a print ad, you know, and traditional. Get your mind out of advertisement. It should not be text heavy and extremely promotional.
Right.
It should look natural to the platform that you are using, and you don't want it to stick out. You want it to catch people's attention for the right reason, not because it looks like you're selling in the middle of a social conversation.
Yeah, don't do that, because it's a social channel.
Don't do that.
Be social, and again, sorry, I'm actually typing out the 4 tips here. It looks like I'm like not paying attention or texting or
Just leaving
something.
you the tips in the comments.
Yes.
The tips are in the comments. Yeah, so show a personality and connect with your audience. I think one of the last things, just to follow up on this, and I did mention it before, when you're doing lead gen, use the built-in lead gen platform tools if they're available. Facebook's is extremely effective. LinkedIn's has a little bit of work to do on how they set it up, because it's got a couple of intermediate steps that really throw up a barrier. But to the point here also, don't go to your homepage. Please don't go to your homepage. That's a brand campaign. If you do want to drive some traffic there, make it a limited amount to reinforce your brand. But go to a dedicated landing page and try to reduce the amount of info you're asking for at the very first step.
For sure. Yeah, you can always, like, to that point, if you have a 10-point form and your offer like is just for more information or something very generic, people are not going to fill that out.
They're not going to put the commitment in.
For sure. And lead capture in 2018, you know, there are other things you can do to gain more information on profile that prospect after the fact. You know, really first name, last name, email, even if that, sometimes it's just email we collect. And then you can always have the lead nurture, which is another element of your 4 pieces that you should have. So first and foremost, you're creative. Obviously, when you go through, Dan was speaking a bit about just your landing page and where that ad actually leads people to. So please have a very specific destination you're sending them to. There are some elements we've gone through in some past episodes, quite in depth on landing page features. But some high level tips is just not a whole ton of links to distract people. You're trying to capture that lead. There's one thing you want them to do on that page. So make sure every element of that page, design, copy, the layout, is focused on getting them to make that one action. Please don't have like your social links up in the top or things like that to lose them. You've paid to drive that traffic there, capture that lead.
Yeah, we call that attention deficit, and you can actually calculate that as a ratio of how many actions you want someone to perform on that one page and how many distracting links you have leading away from that. So menu items, social icons, anything that will, for example, if you're hosting a video on your landing page and you haven't and you're doing it on YouTube, which you can do, but you have to be careful. One distracting element is the post play up next, because then they're going to be watching doggos in no time, right?
That's true.
And so
yes, be very careful when you embed those YouTube videos that you're
Go down the YouTube.
There's specific options for when you grab the embed code. Do not have preview other photos afterwards. Try and reduce all of that. Just little things, little details when you're creating a landing page versus a web page.
Yeah, for sure. And then the last thing as we wrap up here, and I just really want to reinforce this, is for the B2B space, embrace Instagram and Facebook and Twitter as places to pilot and test and to launch campaigns as a reinforcing factor against where you would typically say, well, our people are only on LinkedIn.
Right.
But again, if you think about the idea that we live in a very noisy environment, everybody is distraction level 10.
Yeah.
Every bit of content has to be snackable, and you have to have a hook. Just looking at a LinkedIn strategy as a sole, and it may seem counterintuitive, but if you're using those pixels in those audience and you're really targeting the people you're trying to build a relationship with, getting information out on Facebook is a great way to reinforce your brand and get them to remember you and remember who you are and remember why you're talking to them. And then when you do these types of, let's say, assessments are always really popular, quick and easy assessments. where there can be some kind of a scoring value. You know, are you happy with your webinar program, right? 3 simple questions to assess your effectiveness, right?
For sure.
Quick and simple and easy, but again, use those other channels. Facebook is a place for B2B, Instagram is a place for B2B, and so is Twitter, absolutely. So that's all I have to say about that.
Awesome.
For
All right.
sure, but yeah, and that's exactly what you should consider when you're looking at the targeting. Once you have all your assets and pieces in place, you have the flow,
Yep.
you know what you're going to give your customer or your lead and how they're going to get it. But you know, actual targeting, very, very important. You may have created the best landing page and the best display ad, but if no one sees it, if your strategy isn't there in terms of which channel you're putting it on, is this a piece of a larger campaign? And specifically, are you using custom audiences and the full power of some of these platforms? A lot of the time people come to us and they're like, oh, well, I've targeted people in this city in this age range. That's like, cool. You know, that's step one. You know, looking at the demographics and geographics, step one. But the behavioral targeting of these platforms is really the true power. So please do look into that and the depth you can take your targeting.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, it is 5:08, and apparently, I don't know if it's storming. It's storming somewhere. I don't know if it's
Starting to
storming
storm,
here.
yeah.
Apparently, stuff's blowing around outside. So stay safe out there. Have a
Yeah.
great weekend, and
For
we will
sure.
see you next week.
Yes,
For
See
sure.
you next week.